The UFC heads south to Sao Paulo, Brazil, this Saturday, October 28, for the long-awaited return of one of its favorite sons, MMA legend and former light heavyweight champion lyoto Machida. With odds provided by 5 Dimes, Matt White tells Isu to back in fights involving Machida and Derek Brunson, Demian Maia and Colby Covington, and John Lineker and Marlon Vera. John Lineker vs. Marlon Vera. John Lineker fights for the first time since losing to TJ Dillashaw at UFC 207, making it his first bout of the year. The loss to TJ was only the third reverse for Lineker since debuting in the UFC in 2012. He is a fighter who is as frustrating as he is devastating, and his performances should clearly have delivered him a title shot. Now, if only he could reliably make weight. Hailing from Chile doesn't seem to have affected the globe-trotting exploits of Marlon Vera, with 4 of his 6 performances in the UFC coming overseas. UK fans will best remember him as the man who broke the heart of Brad Pickett when coming from behind to secure the stoppage in the British fighter's last professional fight. Both fighters can and likely will throw down with reckless abandon. Lineker hits about as hard as anyone from 125,145 pounds and also wears the ability to take a punch. Vera is no slouch in that area, either, and his chin has held firm. His only defeats have come via the judge's decision. Likelihood is that Lineker gets the stoppage, but Vera is tough and may be able to hold out. Recommendation: fight goes to a decision, 2 units at 150-64 at 5 Dimes. Demian Maia vs. Colby Covington. Demian Maia fights for the first time since failing in his bid to take the 170 pounds belt from Tyron Woodley. It was a fight that was so bad nobody has any desire to see it rerun anytime soon. Although the performance was bad, the shot was more than deserved as Maia amassed 7 wins on the bounce. The biggest shame is that it came 7 years after his first title shot against Anderson Silva. It was a near-identical performance, in fact, and both will rank as 2 of the worst title defenses in recent history. Colby Covington has blazed a trail since entering the UFC. A sloppy performance against Warlley Alves aside, he has been dominant in all other fights. His ability to shut his opponents down with his wrestling is impressive, and he isn't averse to pulling the occasional submission out of his hat. Whether he can do it against the greatest BJJ fighter to set foot in the octagon is another thing. This is a fight I see going one of 3 ways. If Covington wears Maia like a backpack for 15 minutes, that ends very badly for Colby. But Covington could potentially shut down Maia, out-wrestling him for a shutout on the scorecards. Alternatively, Maia submits Covington, something highly likely since Alves achieved it. Given the absurd odds for the latter, I'm making a small play here. Recommendation: Maia wins by submission, 1 units at 375,154 at 5 Dimes. Derek Brunson vs. lyoto Machida. Before he ran into a surging Robert Whittaker, it is fair to say Derek Brunson was on a bit of a tear, stringing together 5 consecutive wins to put him on the cusp of the top 5. Whittaker exposed a weakness in Brunson that was there for all the world to see yet again. Brunson ran across the octagon with his hands down and his chin out. When you do that against Bobby Knuckles, it's lights out. Against Anderson Silva he demonstrated an improved technique and lost a highly contentious decision, before getting back in the win column with a first-round KO of Daniel Kelly in Auckland, New Zealand. Making his octagon return is a legend of MMA and a future Hall of Famer, lyoto Machida. Machida has been absent since notifying USADA of a supplement taken, which resulted in him getting an 18-month suspension. Given his recent performances, it's somewhat of a surprise to see him back at all. 3 losses from 4 fights only tells half the story. The defeats to Luke Rockhold and Yoel Romero were not so much defeats as pummelings. At 39, it is not difficult to see the end of the road. Another crushing defeat here could signal the end. Inactivity could be the ultimate decider here, as 26 months out is a long time and MMA moves quickly nowadays. Brunson has stayed relatively active despite a couple of losses, and that tilts the balance in favor of the American. If you made this matchup 8 years ago, then a prime Machida wins 9 times out of 10. As it is, however, he needs a combination of poor fight IQ from Brunson and a couple of clean strikes to get his hand raised. Recommendation: Brunson wins by KO TKO 3 units at 111 at 5 Dimes.